Hello, this is John Lee from Ultimate Speaker Training Camp, and in this lesson we're going to talk about how do you tell a story on stage. As a speaker, one of the most important elements that you need to do to captivate your audience is to tell stories. So how do you do it? Well, whenever you tell a story always has 4 points. And what you need to do is, as you're telling a story, you need to get people involved visually, auditory and kinesthetic. Here's why it's so important. I see a lot of speakers, I speak all around the world. Actually, currently I'm in the Mongol Mountains in Taiwan, and we're just finishing off our Asia speaking tour. We've done Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Australia, New Zealand, and we're currently here at the moment. It's beautiful here. And one of the things that you need to do as a speaker, when you're telling stories, it's really important to capture them and get them to picture it. So as you're speaking, a lot of people in the audience will be visual, which means they need to see what you're saying. So if you're describing something, you need to paint the picture as you're talking. And other people are what we call auditory, so they need to hear it, so they need to listen. And as you're describing it, they want to take that information. And number 3 is they need to feel it. They need to feel it kinesthetically. So how do you do this as a speaker? Well, very, very simply, you can do this by, first of all, describing the types of words. So as you're saying things, if you're describing something which is really big, you'll say, and it was massive, and it was huge. So as you're saying the words come to life. So when you're telling the story, the 4 points is you actually tell the beginning of the story. So when I go on stage, I always talk about earning the right. So I always say to people, is it okay if I tell you a little bit about myself and how I started? And they'll say yes. And what I'll do is I'll tell them how I started in this industry, what the biggest challenges were in this industry. So what are the problems that we're facing, and whatever topic you're talking about, you want to make the topic relevant to them. So some of the challenges that they face. Then you talk about the turning point. What happened to get you to make a decision or to get you from failure to success? So you have a turning point in your story. And number 5 is, what did that mean to you? And how can that relate to the audience? So when I'm talking, I speak a lot on property, or I speak a lot on speaking. I train a lot of the speakers who speak on world-class stages, and some of the things that I do is I tell them specifically what it is that's really important, that when you're speaking to an audience, that out of the 4, the most important one that people relate to the most is the turning point. Because most people, they want to take action, but if they're not taking action, it's because they're procrastinating. And so the turning point, that point, you need to describe that scenario or where you were. And the best way to do it, the easiest way to do it, is to really think about where you were. So, I remember exactly my turning point was, I remember when I was on the train and I was sitting there and I was thinking, should I do this, should I not? I had all these little voices going through my head. Should I quit my job and start property immediately? Or should I not do it? And I had all these conflicts. A part of me wanted to do this, a part of me wants to do that. I remember sitting there, and as the train was going by, you see everything moving really quickly. And I was just looking around and looking at people sitting there thinking, do I really want to be like these people 20, 30, 50 years time from now? The question was no. And so I made a distinct decision. I remember, I'll never forget this moment as well, that when my telephone rang, I looked at it, and it was my partner at the time. And when I picked up the phone, I said, look, I want to make a decision here. And I remember the distinctive question that I asked myself to allow me to quit my job and to get into, becoming an entrepreneur full time was, the question was, if I failed, could I get back a job? If I failed, could I get back into a job? And the answer was yes. And so as I describe that story to you, I'm describing what happened at the time. And obviously, as you're describing this, I'm just doing this off the cuff here, but what we want to do is we want to write down specific emotions that we were going through. How did your voice sound? Was it up or was it down? Because as you're describing the stories, you want to elicit different states as you speak to the audience. So that is how you tell a story. 4 really simple points: where you started, what the challenges were, the turning point, and what it meant to you after you achieved that success. So I hope you found this lesson useful, and I'll be sending more videos to you in different locations as we tour around the world speaking. And if you've got any questions, just contact me through the site or through the email address, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. It's John Lee from Ultimate Speaker Training Camp. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.